welcome back to another Just 5 Mins. My goodness. Well, it's AI. What to say? What else is there in life? It's been a busy week or so, because there's been all the, I say all the big players, but a lot of the big players have had conferences, Microsoft Build, so obviously a whole swathe of AI stuff. Everything with AI, agents, agentic, they're the keywords. Agentic web, come on. And then Google just launched absolutely squillions of things, it seemed. And so did Anthropic. And by the way, because this is a ramble, I'm allowed to get away with this. So you can always turn off. Crikey, have you got better things to do? But never mind, if you haven't, and if you're driving and you're just bored and you just want something droning in the background, you've picked the right thing. But anyway, yeah, Anthropic, who make Claude and all that sort of stuff, I don't think they get necessarily the sort of credit as some of the bigger players maybe in the area, although they are big players. What am I saying? But what I'm talking about is MCP, because in November last year, 2024, they came out with the MCP standard, Model Context Protocol, which doesn't sound that sexy, and it's people go, what? And then I've seen a lot of latent, where people have said, oh, it's just replacing APIs. Well, no, it isn't. It's basically like all the web keeps saying USB-C for AI, and that is probably one of the better descriptions, really. But it certainly isn't a replacement to APIs, but it's a little bit like a protocol, like HTTPS that you type in. That's a protocol, to pull web pages and data over to your browser and all that sort of stuff. So MCP, Model Context Protocol, it really gives a standard. That's why people are using USB-C as an example. So it basically means, of late, usually if you're going to work with OpenAI, ChatGPT, you can build your own custom GPTs, and they can do other things, or you can build, your own, specific things with Azure AI or, anything like that, or on Google Gemini. But you're all connecting things yourself in all these different ways. So essentially, what MCP does is gives you that standard interface, so that if you want large language models, AI, to talk to other things, there's a standard. So that the model has context, so that's the context bit. So it knows there's. By the way, I've been building some MCP things, so I'll have a couple of videos out shortly on those things. So. But essentially, you give some context about what that MCP does, and then you've got tools. And by the way, you can have multiple tools. But ultimately, what you're doing is, as a developer, I use that term loosely because it's getting a bit blurred these days with all the auto applications out there. But the idea is you build an MCP server, which isn't a server. It's an app that runs somewhere, whether that's locally or in the cloud or on a server. And then you've got an MCP client that could be another app. Claude Desktop, for instance, is an MCP client. So is Visual Studio Code. And there's lots of others. Microsoft Teams. And the reason I'm mentioning this is because a lot of this stuff that came out from Build is just MCP everywhere, like MCP in Windows, for goodness sake, at the OS level, MCP anywhere and everywhere. And the idea is you can write these MCP servers to connect to your file system or to, document sources, to APIs. And that's where there's a bit of confusion, because you can wire up an MCP to call other APIs. And the overall thing is that when you've then got an AI chat request or a I shouldn't really say it's just a chatbot, because you can do obviously so much more now. But if as a user is got something like, you know, I want to look for this or whatever, what can happen is the LLM can now say, oh, you've got MCP tools are available, and it can go and like look at direct stuff. So you can make it look at specific documents in your organization, or look at your file system, go and search the web for you, do all sorts of things. And obviously there's all agentic web where it's doing searching for the web for you, making phone calls for you, for goodness sake. All of this comes with a lot of caveats, doesn't it, about security and identity and everything. But the whole MCP thing, it's been a bit of a wild west, I guess, since, and it's such a short time, isn't it? November 2024. It's only 24th of May 2025, and you know, the adoption of MCP has gone absolutely ballistic. And there's nothing wrong. There's loads of MCP sites out there, like showing you all these servers. The only problem is you've got to sort of at least understand what it's actually doing, those MCP servers, those apps. Because obviously if you say, yeah, I'll have that MCP server that connects to my file system, what else is it doing? What's it got access to? And that brings me on to another thing. I think this is what Microsoft, Google, and some of the big players are doing, as well as Docker, which is quite an interesting one. I did a video a couple of weeks ago. Docker have jumped on, I think, a very good bandwagon where you've got Docker containers that you can run all sorts of different apps and services in a reliable and confined way. They've done the same for MCP servers. So the idea is, instead of you thinking, is this okay to use or isn't it? I'm sure Microsoft and Google have got these, and probably if not, they've got them in the works. But the idea is that the Docker has then got trusted providers of those MCPs. So it depends where you put your trust, but you know what I mean. It's got more chance that there's some decent security around these things. So the idea is, you can really extend the AI experience to go and search the web for you. Like I said, make telephone calls. It can search local file systems or SharePoint file systems. It can do, like I say, call lots of APIs. And by the way, the MCP, it can do multiple things in those. It can essentially have multiple tools. And then it orchestrates that to actually call them. But the point being is that I wanted to get over is that the USB-C analogy is good, because it means that it's not limited to just ChatGPT or Claude or Gemini or anything like that. It provides a standard way for these LLMs to actually interact with these MCPs without having to have, this one needs this bit of custom code. That one needs that. So, it is a big deal. It is a big deal. And the only way to learn it is, in my book, is I'm actually building a few of these MCPs in, there's a couple in Python that I've written. But because my primary knowledge is C#.NET, I've actually had a really good time. Actually, there's a lot of good stuff in the .NET ecosystem, of course, because Microsoft had just plastered MCP all over the Build conference. But anyway, it's all out there. It's really happening. But yeah, Build, there's loads of stuff. There were some quite interesting things as well, because I think Visual Studio Code has been open source obviously from day one. But Copilot, GitHub Copilot, was proprietary inside that sort of thing. So, but that's now been open source. So it's really up against the likes of Windsurf, Cursor, and other IDEs or AI IDEs now. So it is totally free and open source. Obviously, if and it's the same in Windsurf or Cursor or anything like that, you're going to pick a model. Some of these IDEs, like I think Cursor actually isn't yet, or maybe it is, but Windsurf and things like that, you've still got to pay for essentially the use of a large language model. Interestingly, there are extensions to work with Visual Studio Code to look at local LLMs using something like Ollama and stuff. I can go into a bit more detail on that if you want me to at some later stage. But there is actually another fork of VS Code, because Windsurf, I don't know, I haven't fully checked the facts here, but I think OpenAI, who make ChatGPT and all that sort of stuff, they've bought Windsurf for 3.5 billion. Goodness me. Geez, what am I doing? Why am I talking into this microphone? Anyway, but that is, Windsurf is a fork, like because it's open source, you can take a copy of VS Code, and that's what they've done. But they've obviously done a very good job of enhancing it to get the attention of OpenAI and people like that. And it's certainly at 3.5 billion. Crikey. But anyway, the idea is, VS Code, it sort of then begs the question, well, you've now got GitHub Copilot open source as well. But like I said, you still have to use an LLM, whether it's a paid one or local. Okay, so, but anyway, but Google have spat out absolutely squillions of things, for the AI stuff, and too many to go through right now, even if it is a ramble. Because what I was looking at, and I've just trying to find the details, actually. It's a ramble, so I'm allowed to do this, aren't I? That was it. I'll put some links below. It's stitch.withgoogle.com. And I know this is like very clickbaity, but is it the end of UI designers? Probably not. But my goodness, you can get Stitch to design your UIs for mobile or web, and it'll even export them into Figma, or you can export them direct to HTML, CSS, and it'll give you the option of CSS frameworks you want to use. It's scarily good, actually, from a design perspective. But so is all of these agentic code systems like Windsurf, Cursor, GitHub Copilot in agent mode, etc. They're all building stuff, and again, I know a lot of people, there's just all this AI slop software, as they're calling it, which is true, but there is a democracy there of letting people who maybe can't code or don't have the skills to build stuff, and especially if they're building a website that they want or whatever, then fair enough. But I think that's where developers in the future are going to be helping these people who have got AI to actually write these apps to a certain level, and then need to make sure it's secure and extend it and work out what else to do with it. So I think developers in the future are just going to be sad, which is super augmented developers. Sorry, I had to fit that in there, didn't I? But and Anthropic have come out. Obviously, Claude has been a very good model for coding as well. Claude 3.7 Sonnet and a few others. Claude 4's come out, and I've been playing in the past. I've done a couple of just 5 minutes and videos on Claude Code, as well as OpenAI's Codex. And these are all, again, like, they'll generate and work with code in the background. That's where the agentic bit comes in. You give it some instruction, it'll go off and do the whole thing. It can hook into GitHub, look at your issues, go and fix stuff. And that brings me on to, I think it's called Jules from Google as well, that have released that sort of like agentic coder in the background, but they've also got the Firebase Studio, which is again like these online coding platforms like Replit, Lovable, and there's countless others cropping up, and they're all really quite amazing what they can do. And I know there's dangers, and I know there's security concerns, and it's filling up the internet with just A lot of junk maybe, but then, it gives people a way to actually explore and experiment, doesn't it, as well? So, there's always, two sides to the story with all these things, but amazing amount of stuff that's come out. Obviously, it's now trying to see through. It's like swimming in the sea and looking for water. It's like there's so much. You're trying to now narrow down the focus to see, well, what do I actually want to do? What do I want to achieve with this? And of course, there's lots of help in your day-to-day job, or if you're building apps or whatever it might be. But I'll put a few links below. But yeah, quite a crazy time. How quick it's moving. But again, it's really about trying to hone in on what you actually need and what makes sense and what gives you some value add. There is a lot of good stuff there. I don't think you could just throw away AI as a term. It's all AI, because there are some amazing things that it can do and is really helping people. But anyway, there's a lot of good stuff out there. It is a weekend ramble number 5. I think I'm going to put this one. I think it is 5 or 6 anyway. But anyway, I hope you enjoyed the ramble, or the droning in the background if you're driving or whatever you're doing. Have a good day, a good week, or whatever it is that you're doing. And I will catch you on the next one.